Hey, what's up, Golf Strategy School? Marty Griffin here. If you've never listened to the show before, this is the only podcast that's really designed to help people get over that milestone score of breaking 90. Now, today's subject is going to be something that is very much along those lines, and that is, what are the three fundamentals that if you don't have, they will crush you in your mental. All right, so today what we're looking at is what we can get done in our mental game, specifically what we have to do in order to make sure that we're not just killing ourselves out on the golf course and, let's be honest, setting us up for failure. All right, the first one is making sure that you are locked into a number other than your score. What happens all the time with newer golfers or golfers who maybe don't have the experience of success is they will get locked in on their score as the metric to watch and kind of the only metric to watch. Now, we've been talking about in recent episodes that there are a lot of different metrics that we can watch and how they can kind of influence our scores in different ways. What happens when people get stuck just on score is that as soon as they have a hole that doesn't go the way they want it to, they tend to collapse and they crumble under the pressure. Now, how do you tell if this is you? Well, if you have had a round that was a terrible front nine and then a fantastic back nine, that's a sign that this happens to you, because as soon as your golf score leaves what you think is the plan for the day, then you just crumble, or vice versa. You're doing a really good job sticking to your plan, and then as you get closer and closer and closer to that finish line, everything gets harder and harder and harder, just like it always will. But then again, you crumble. You make one misstep and then it follows you for like 3 or 4 holes, or in some cases you have one bad shot and it follows you for 3 or 4 shots. What happens here is we get so locked into that score mindset. And the problem here with the score mindset is that there are 2 different ways that this can betray us. First and foremost, we can be betrayed by, like the example I've given, the early stumble, and then we just can't recover. Or we will play so bad on the front nine that we know that there's just no chance in hell that we're coming back. So then what happens? Because all of the pressure is off, we play amazing and we still turn in a really nice back nine that causes us to have kind of a slightly above average score for us. So if that's something that you're falling into, this is a way that you can kind of add some perspective to your game and get beyond that blockage. Now, here's way number 2 that a score mindset can actually punish you. So let's actually flip the coin on the other side and let's say, hey, we're playing really well. We're playing really well on the front nine. We're playing so well that we are 4 or 5 strokes ahead of our personal best. And the shots are going great. I'm hitting more greens. I'm hitting more fairways. I'm making putts. Everything is beyond wonderful. Well, as you're getting closer and closer to that finish line, you realize that you are so far ahead of your goal and you take your foot off the gas. Once you take your foot off the gas, you no longer have that drive. It's very, very hard to get momentum up to absolutely destroy whatever that personal best is. So now here's how you get over that score-focused mindset. So rather having this larger overarching measurement of the entire day, so your final score, what I want you to do is break it up into little tiny micro goals. So just like we talked about in our previous episode, we've got all sorts of different stats that we want to track if we're looking at our progress and proximity to breaking 80. So a really great place to start is those same exact 4 statistics. So we're looking at fairways or kind of near misses. Anytime you hit the ball close to the fairway and it is, close enough to actually hit your next shot and hit the green in regulation, that would have been a near fairway. So what we want to do is we want to set a goal for ourselves there. Something like maybe 50% of our fairways we hit or we hit near. So rather than focusing on the score for the hole, we're just focusing on the tee shot. We're so much more in the moment. We do the same thing with our approach shots. We want to hit maybe 60% of our approach shots at least like on or within putting distance of the green. So same kind of concept. If you've just rolled off onto the fringe and you can putt, that's good enough. But really what we want to make sure, what we really want to make sure is that 40% that we miss leaves us with a shot inside of 50 yards, because that is astronomically higher percent chances of converting that for an up and down. Now, that 40% that we don't hit the green, we want to see if we can maybe get up and down 70% of the time from that situation. Now, obviously, these are some pretty steep goals. These are more like goals that you would set for yourself to break 80 than to break 90, but you can understand the concept. What we're doing is we're taking a big overarching number and we are breaking it down into little goals that we can focus on one at a time, and really just kind of keep yourself focused on performing in the moment rather than getting sucked into what's my number. All right, so what is our number 2 rule that we absolutely have to follow in order to have success in the mental game? Otherwise, we're just going to get crushed by our own performance here. And that is basically will or drive. Now, I don't mean like, oh, you got to go out and you got to practice 8,000 hours a day. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, on like a given hold, you have the willpower to never give up. Even though you launched the first one off onto the highway and you're now hitting 3 and you're in the rough and you don't have the greatest position to come into the green at, those things are all okay. Just don't give up, because you might be laying 3 in the rough and your next shot might be short and you're not even on the green in par for like a par 4. But as long as you keep going, you can get one good shot that will allow you to close the book a lot quicker. Maybe you're 20 yards off the green from that shot in the rough. Well, if you don't give up, you could still chip that maybe inside of 10 feet, and you might be able to make that next putt. And so instead of having a triple or a snowman or something like that, you cap the damage to a double bogey. That is so incredibly important for you to really have a good, strong mental game, is that you don't even have the flittering spark of the idea to give up on a shot or a hole or a situation. It can be very, very daunting when you're in the moment, but take your time. This is why your pre-shot routine is so important for your golf game, is because that is what you can rely on to be the same every single time, no matter what the circumstances, because you're doing the same thing all the time. That's your first piece of consistency. So if you want consistency in terms of your output, you have to really make sure that you're leaning on that first piece of consistency for your controllable input. All right, so what is our third and final pillar that we have to make sure is nice and strong and steady in order to not get crushed by our mental game? Well, before I tell you that, I just want to ask, if you have been learning from this video, if you've been enjoying it, if you could just give a little tap to that like button, it's right up over here. You'll be able to just let other golfers know that you enjoyed it, and hopefully it gets shared amongst people so they can help strengthen their mental game. So, step 3, what is our last one here? It is the ability to commit. Now, you may have had a reaction a lot like my other students do when I say commit. It's like a chill goes down their spine, because in a lot of ways it is the hardest thing to do. Now, when I say commit, I don't mean that you actually hit the shot that you visualized, because in a lot of ways, in the moment, that's not necessarily in our control, because whether or not we've done all of our practice, all of our prep, all of our everything is really what's determining our ability to do that in the moment. But what I mean is that you set a plan and you stick to the plan. So the easiest example here is when you're waffling between clubs. You're sitting there, I got 150 yards. It's a soft 8-iron or it's a hard 9-iron. I just don't know what to do. Whatever decision you make there, you have to stick with it, and you have to be committed to that version of your swing. Now, this is a technique called ThinkBox Playbox from Lynn and Pia over at Vision 54. Amazingly smart mental game people over there. You want to learn a lot? pick up any one of their books and you will learn a lot. But their think box, play box mentality really speaks directly to that. You're standing behind your ball, you're looking at your shot, you're visualizing, you're making your plan. And once you decide that plan and you address the golf ball, you cross an imaginary line, you enter your play box, and from there, the only thing you can do is execute the plan that you just made from your think box. And this is a really nice way to kind of compartmentalize those two parts and allow players to stay more committed to the shot throughout. Now, this is something that I like to call following your avenue to success, because in my opinion, every single shot you should be analyzing, you should be visualizing, and you should be executing, meaning again, sticking to that plan. And this is a way that you can, make sure you follow and have a good pre-shot routine. So just to give you a little perspective, professionals can usually do this type of analyze, visualize, execute process 90 to 95% of the time during their shots. So obviously this is, when you do this for yourself, track it for 9 holes, when you see what your numbers are, you can see how there's usually a pretty easy gap to fill there. And it's a really easy way to help strengthening your mental game so you can start to have and maybe play a little bit more like your pros rather than your Sunday night golf buddies. If you like this, I'm so glad. Otherwise, hey, check out our Golf Coach Reacts swing analysis videos. I'll drop the playlist right over here. And hey, catch you in the short grass, everybody. Cheers.